So the other day, whenever I was talking about my favorite book, Atoms, Energy, and Machines, and the books that I got with it that are in the same series, the Creative Science series, the ones that have the photos on every single page, it occurred to me that I should probably make like a revised version of this. Well, then then today occurred to me I should not. I should not make a revised version of this directly. I should take this idea of a book, very hands-on, very practical, wonderful, beautiful book, where it has great examples of on every single page. It talks you through everything. It conveys the ideas wonderfully. And I should combine it with my table and my thaumaturgical, like industrial thaumaturgy or whatever book, because I want to kind of reclaim the word thaumaturge to mean like something kind of cool, like a cool use of science or whatever. But it's the book that I want to make around the table of energy conversion, because of course to me, thaumaturgy is just using science to do really really cool shit, sometimes even like amazing shit, because it used to be kind of very similar to that. And so if you're going to do that, you need to find a good way to break things down into little blocks to see what is actually possible in our world. And that's what the table of energy conversion I made was for. And I've updated it since that time, but every single time I go back to it, I keep updating it more and more. So I think I'm going to give it a few months where I go back, I change it a little bit, I go away, I come back, change it a little bit, and then whenever I start coming back and not changing much, then I'll release it and want your guys' opinions. Well, what if it was just called like the book was just about the table of energy conversion, and then each page, or at least a good portion of it was, to where the pages after that were little subchapters, little articles, like maybe 2 or 3 pages or more, where I talk about every single conversion method in the table of energy conversion, like for instance the Doppler shift or whatever, and for every single one, every single way to convert energy, every single scientific principle or scientific effect, I do an experiment. I build like a little experiment, and I take a picture, and I show pictures and diagrams and stuff like that. So it would be very similar to this, where you have pictures and diagrams of it. Hopefully on like every page. That'd be pretty cool. So that would be, I think I should take cues from this book collection, where it's just a very wonderful book. So imagine you're flipping through it, and of course I'd want to say like Industrial Thaumaturgy Volume 1 or something like that, and the Table of Energy Conversion, or Introduction to the Table of Energy Conversion, or something like that. It'd be kind of cool sounding. And you open it up, and there's like a big, maybe even like a fold-out thing of the Table of Energy Conversion, and it has like the 10 or so types of energy that I decide to break out, because I'm still in. I could go the purely scientific way, like the smallest way I could compress things. I could compress all the electromagnetic spectrum into one block. I could compress like all the other stuff into one little block. Or the more practical thing, where I could expand the electromagnetic spectrum into like infrared, microwaves, radio waves, visible light, ionizing radiation, all that kind of stuff. Speaking of that, I think what I'm actually going to do is I might keep the electromagnetic spectrum like really expanded, because right now I have it where it's like basically I took that electromagnetic spectrum, made it out wide, and put lines in the middle, so you have like all the different like sections that we kind of see, is like starting with like infrared or radio waves. I can't remember right now. And then going up to ionizing radiation on your side, on my side at least. Well, what if I kept that expanded and I took away the lines? So within this column, it is just a gradient. Because if something fits in the microwave section, well, that effect probably only works on only half the microwave section, but it might actually work in a little bit of the radio wave section or whatever, like the surrounding block. So it'd actually be like kind of overlaid a little bit. So it wouldn't really fit exactly in that square if you imagine this as one gradient of the spectrum. So what if I just have like a gradient and I have boxes in their length that are from like the wavelength they first are able to work with and the wavelength they're last able to work with. And so then you can actually see what range on the electromagnetic spectrum they can work on. Then at the top you'll just have like a gradient saying like all the different like points that you might recognize, like radio waves and microwaves and visible light and ultraviolet and ionizing radiation and whatnot. I'm a little too tired to remember exactly what all of it is, unfortunately. I feel so terrible about that. So yeah, I might take the electromagnetic spectrum, since it's so complex and means a lot to us, and keep it expanded out, but just make it a gradient instead of just 4 positions. And then after that, I'll have like an article about probably going one by one, or yeah, one by one, or like doing a raster draw across the thing, and then getting making an article about every little effect. Like I could start out with, maybe I should go by block, if there are blocks. Well, then if the electromagnetic spectrum is just going to be like a gradient instead of like 4 blocks, then it'd be hard to make an entire article about a block if you then kind of throw away the block diagram idea halfway through. But maybe I should keep the empty blocks and make articles about those, like electricity to electricity conversion. You know what I mean? Why can we not just step up voltage? Why do we have to do trickery stuff for charging 2 capacitors and put them in series, and charge them in parallel and put them in series? Because that's not stepping up the voltage. That's just putting things in series. Stepping up the voltage would be that you feed 2 wires in, and magically the voltage increases when it comes out. There is no reaction or any process going on inside of that component. Just you put it in, boom, higher voltage. That would be electricity to electricity conversion in my head. And maybe I should make an article or several pages talking about that, and if I can't find a good way for that to work, then talking about why it doesn't work or why we haven't seen it to work. And then I would try to do an experiment. Well, I guess if I can't figure out why it wouldn't work, then what kind of experiment would I do? Perhaps I should only do experiments on things that are documented to actually work. Like incandescence, like heat to light. And that would just be like a light bulb or something like that. Of course, I should probably make it like in a vacuum chamber, a little cooler. I don't know. My dad runs a printing company, so I can always get my book published pretty easily. And he has several companies that he works with where they have a couple of companies just recently got a digital printing press that can do one-off books. You send it a PDF, and it prints off a bunch of paper, and then it can bind it in a little cookie cutter binding a binder thing. Probably nothing as fancy as this, but if I fed this kind of if I made a fancy cover and fed it into it, then there's no reason it could make just 1 book or 10 books or 20 books. You know what I mean? It'd be kind of cool. Making low quantity, high quality books would be pretty cool. Yeah, this is like a several year project. I'm not sure how much of a book it would be to talk about the table of energy conversion, because now that I'm getting into it, at first I thought the table of energy conversion would just be something that would be one or 2 pages in the front. But now that I'm getting into it, it's actually a really, really in-depth thing, because you're basically trying to describe how energy can change, how thermal energy can turn into radio waves, or how radio waves can turn into electricity, or whatever. And that's a pretty in-depth thing. Yeah. It'll require a much better understanding of physics, much more practical understanding of science and all that kind of stuff. A good several hundred little experiments run. It'd be kind of cool to make like a little desktop experiment that would work, and it would demonstrate something, and then I can like ship it back to Illinois when I'm done photographing it and making it for a video about it and stuff like that. So I can have like a collection of hundreds of little like experiments back in Illinois. That'd be kind of cool. Well, that's pretty much it. So yeah, my idea for integrating, my idea for revamping, updating the spirit of this book, I've kind of moved that towards my idea for making a very interesting analysis of the constraints of our world, the physics and science of our world, the physical constraints of our world, I guess I could say. I don't know. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and thank you very much for watching. See ya!